Hello everybody, how's it going? So yesterday was the record show here in town, and I bought a whole bunch of records. About 42 I think is what I bought. Um, but this video is not going to be about what I bought at the record show. This one's actually stuff I picked up the day before, and then a few today from the local Goodwill in town. Because I decided to go there the day before the record show because I was watching my video from a couple of videos from last year from the two record shows, the fall and the spring one, and one of them I talked about how I had gone to the Second and Charles store here in town the day before the record show and ended up blowing part of my record show money because they put out a whole bunch of jazz for fairly cheap. So I decided to, see if maybe lightning would strike twice, and I went by the Second and Charles, and there was nothing there. And then I stopped by Goodwill, and this is Saturday evening, about 5 o'clock, and lo and behold, they put out like 3 new bins of records, and I don't think they've been too picked over, because there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. So that's what this is, and a few classical records I picked up today from the same collection. So to get right into it, starting off with some jazz stuff, a nice Stan Getz box set. I didn't really know what was inside until I got home. I took a quick peek. Pretty cool. It's put out by the Book of the Month Club, apparently. Maybe you can kind of see in the back there. But it's got a nice little booklet with some, biographical information, photos and stuff about Stan Getz. Great sax player, and then the records inside were selections pulled from the Verve catalog. So it's just recordings from the Verve label. A nice flimsy floppy vinyl here, but there's three records in the set. So that was pretty nice. And all these records at Goodwill here in town, you can get 3 records for 99 cents or 10 for $2. So I took advantage of the 10 for 2, and so these would all be basically 20 cents a piece. And then a copy of Dave Brubeck's Greatest Hits on Columbia. I'm not really sure I need it because I probably got just about all his individual albums in Columbia. An old Benny Goodman, Swing Into Spring. Also on Columbia. This is a Columbia 6-eye pressing. This one was made for Texaco, apparently. And I guess probably if you bought something, you get this as a premium from the Texaco gas station or service center or whatever. Oh, it's not a 6-eye. It's predates the 6-eye. So it's on the earlier Columbia label. But these are selections from, I think, the early 40s, about 41 to 1958. Actually, I shouldn't precede the 6-eye. That's kind of weird. Couple jazz records from the Toshiko Akiyoshi Lou Tabakin Big Band. Toshiko was a jazz pianist. She recorded some stuff early on for like clef or verve or something, in your typical piano trios and things like that. But apparently later formed a big band with Lou Tabakin. I think it was her husband. I could be wrong. But these are a couple recordings from, let's say, the RCA label. So we have Tales of a Courtesan and Road Time, which is, I guess, a double record, I think a live set here. Yeah, recorded live in Japan. Big band, but with some kind of interesting conceptual elements. Toshiko, I think, she wrote all the music and I think did the arrangements. All songs composed and arranged by Toshiko Akiyoshi. Yeah, and does some interesting kind of conceptual work in the way she composes and arranges her pieces. So interesting stuff, not your typical 1940s big band sound. Mose Allison, Mose in Your Ear, recorded live in Palo Alto on Atlantic. I've got some of his earlier stuff on Atlantic. And I wasn't sure I was going to like it at first because he plays piano and sings, but it's interesting stuff. Chick Corea, the Mad Hatter. So this is kind of in the fusion period here. And this is actually a white label promo on Polydor. And just beautiful shape. Yeah, so definitely fusion-y stuff. I'm not real familiar with Chick Corea, aside from his earlier stuff, like on Blue Note and things like that. I grew up in Clearwater, Florida, which is crawling with Scientologists, in the Church of Scientology. And Chick Corea is a prominent Scientologist. And I think a lot of people in Clearwater, Florida feel some resentment towards the Church of Scientology. They've really taken over the downtown of the city and buying out all these old buildings and expanding, and it's just kind of a creepy presence, and the Church of Scientology creeps me out in general. So yeah, that's why I unfortunately associate Chick Corea with. Here's another one, Return to Forever, Light as a Feather. So kind of unfortunate, every time I see his name I associate it with the Church of Scientology. Grover Washington Jr., Mr. Magic, and Kudu. Really nice shape. One kudu. I've got several kudus I don't have. I've got probably 7 or 8 kudu records. Okay, so kind of closing out the jazz. Got some stuff I already had, like the CTI, Summer Jazz, the Hollywood Bowl. Wasn't sure if I had this volume or not. I already did. Herbie Hancock Future Shock. I've got a really nice Japanese pressing of this, but I got to pick up a clean US pressing. And some Pearl Bailey, Sings for Adults Only. Just kind of curious what this is about on roulette. Pretty rough shape. So I found a couple records that are kind of more on the jazzy side. Well, one's not really jazz, but a couple records that I bought sort of for the novelty, but when I got home and looked them up, I realized that they're very collectible. First up, probably recognize this woman. If you're a Gilligan's Island fan, if you grew up watching Gilligan's Island reruns, this is Tina Louise. It's Time for Tina. Yeah, I thought it was just kind of cool. And then when I was sorting through the records, figuring out what I was going to buy, what I was going to leave behind, I noticed there's a little label here, and someone's written tenor sax, Coleman Hawkins; alto sax, Hilton Jefferson; trombone, Tyree Glenn, 1957. And there's a flea market or record store price tag here. It says $5. And apparently this is a very collectible record now. This one's in pretty good shape. Cover's got some issues, obviously, with these little stickers on it. There's a little tear from probably a previous sticker, but Coleman Hawkins playing on it. It's pretty cool. This is from 1957, so that's probably about 7 years before Gilligan's Island, but she'd already been in some movies by then. And then the other one, another beautiful woman here, Bridget Bardot. Bridget Bardot Sings on Phillips, the Phillips Connoisseur Collection. This one, you know, some wear on the cover and stuff, but you know, for 20 cents, I wasn't going to leave it behind. I think it's more, that one's more pop, maybe chanson, whatever they call it, the French pop sound. Kind of a blind buy, a Columbia 6i here, although it looks more like a late 60s psychedelic thing with that little logo, Tammy Grimes. Don't really know much anything about her. I think somewhere on the back it says something about a jazz singer or something, so if you're going to give it a shot. They had a bunch of disco type stuff, so I picked up some sort of disco-y 12 inches. Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun on Portrait, and it's got some remixes, and yeah, Arthur Baker remixes, one of my favorite producers, remixers of the kind of hip-hop disco era. Blondie, Heart of Glass. I like that picture on the label there. It's also got the instrumental on the B-side. And this is kind of funny. I bought it. It's still sealed, and it's just kind of a novelty thing. Carl Douglas, Kung Fu Fighting, and Other Great Love Songs. But yeah, still sealed. I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing. If I take it to a record store and try to get some store credit, $1 or $2. If it's even worth that. This looked interesting, probably not that I'm going to hang on to, but give it a listen. This is Phil Spector Wall of Sound Volume 3. So I guess they kind of collected the production work of Phil Spector. This is British pressing. And it's got, this is tracks from the Crystals. Crystals sing their greatest hits. I'm not familiar with the Crystals, but if you know the Phil Spector Wall of Sound, you kind of know what it sounds like. Yeah, interesting. Phil Spector International label, I guess. Then kind of floppy vinyl, but looks like a really nice pressing. Yeah, for 20 cents. Some reggae. I don't really know much about kind of mainstream reggae. I just really know one label, On You Sound, which is kind of a little more experimental. But this is Inner Circle reggae thing on Capital EMI. And Steel Pulse, an album called Reggae Fever. Yeah, I've heard of these guys, but I've never really sat down and listened to their music. And a little single here by Steel Pulse on Mango. Sound System on one side, and Ku Klux Klan on the other side. Ku Klux Klan. Don't know what that's about, but I'll give it a listen. Looks like a compilation here. This is reggae music from Ireland. So you've got the Maytals, Jimmy Cliff, Joe Higgs, the Wailers, Zap Powell, the Heptones, among others. And then what looks like a blues record here on the Everest Tradition label, In Memoriam, Josh White. Not familiar with that. I'm not a big blues guy, but for 20 cents I'll give it a shot. Something just kind of goofy. I actually found at the same Goodwill a copy of this in the same beautiful condition. This is TV Tunes, Television's Greatest Hits, double record set. So it's got all the theme songs from the great TV shows of, I don't know, I guess the 40s, or not 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s. But yeah, I got 2 copies of that now. Crazy, for 20 cents a piece. Getting into some classical. This one's probably the cream of the crop because it's not your typical classical. It's some modern electronic music, electronic composers here, electronic music winners on the Angel label, I believe. No, Columbia Odyssey. I like that little kind of circuit board logo there. Yeah, some really interesting, weird music, kind of neat diagrams in the back. Yeah, this one's definitely a keeper. This one I bought, I just want to hear the performance. Columbia, probably the most common, one of the most common classical labels you see out there, along with Angel. This one I think is a 2i. No, just the Columbia Masterworks after the 2i, well after the 6i. But Bernstein doing the Grand Canyon Suite. And then some labels I always pick up when I see them in good condition, if they're not opera, if they're just regular classical. From the Philips, the Dutch Philips label, a tribute to Holland. They've always got these nice slick kind of floppy cardboard covers here, and then it's got the imported from Europe sticker. But yeah, these are just really nice pressings on really thin vinyl. You gotta see it flopping around there, but really clean. They did a nice job with the pressings on these, and I'm not a horrible stickler for audiophile sound, but these sound really good to me. Better than a lot of the Columbias. And then Mercury, Golden Imports. This is pressed by Philips in Holland as well. It's got the same imported from Europe sticker. So these are a lot of the recordings that were originally on the Mercury Living Presence series back in the late 50s, early 60s. And then they've been repressed in Holland on that same kind of flimsy vinyl, but really nice clean pressings, and yeah, usually in a lot better shape than the old Mercury Living Presence albums when you find them. And so this is some yeah, some good stuff. Angel, a lot of people, when they're asked classical fans to rank classical record labels, they kind of crap on Angel. It's, I guess, sort of like the EMI's you know, American branch. Stuff pressed by EMI was put out by Angel in the US, and I guess the pressing quality wasn't as good, and they used second generation masters or things like that, but I pick them up sometimes. But this is from Angel's 45 Angel Sonic series, so it plays at 45 RPM, and it's also, you see it there, it's also quadraphonic, but the 45 RPM thing is what really sold me on it. Yeah, that's kind of this is definitely the label they tell you to avoid, kind of the brown and tan and yellow label there. But 45 RPM, pretty cool. Very nice quality on this. I like it. And then London Zubin Mehta conducting the LA Philharmonic Orchestra, and nice quality vinyl on these. Yeah, I don't often see Decca UK pressings here in the US and thrift stores, so I'll go for the London ones. Everest, picked up a bunch of Everest from the Goodwill. Everest was a really good label at the very beginning. Here's an early Everest pressing. Got a silver back here. Talking about the 35mm magnetic film they recorded on, and it's got this one's got the original inner sleeve. It's really colorful, but it shows you like an actual size, the 35mm magnetic film. The 1/4 inch magnetic tape they use for mono recordings, 1/2 inch tape for stereo recordings, and then compare it to the huge wide 35mm magnetic film. And there's the flip side, they're different releases. And then I guess apparently the records came originally with a little kind of paper, almost like an obi sleeve. So there's this little fragment that was inside there, you know, hyping their 35mm magnetic film. And they claim they were the first to use it apparently, so I don't know if it was them or Command Records or who was first, but I'll show you the label on that. This is one of the first, probably not the first, but one of the first iterations of the label. Kind of gold and purple. These are really good. And then the rest I got were slightly later pressing. The company was sold, originally was part of the Baylock Instrument Company or something out of New York City, and then was sold to a company out in California, and the quality started going downhill. This is a little bit later version of the label. In my opinion, these are still pretty good sound. And then they went to more of like a solid blue, or I think black with silver text on them. But these ones here, they look kind of cheapy, the label design there, but they're still pretty good. I like them. So I picked up several of these. This is Shostakovich, Villa-Lobos, and Prokofiev, Berlioz. You know, just a variety of stuff. Give it a try. Fountains of Rome, the Pines of Rome. Again, it's got the hyping their 35mm magnetic film. But yeah, just a bunch of those. I'm going to show them all. And then some RCA Victor, an old RCA Victor, early 12-inch LP from RCA Victor. This is a guy named William Capell, pianist, with yeah, they call it the Robin Hood Dell Orchestra of Philadelphia, conducted by William Steinberg. So it's a RCA Red Seal, before the days of the shaded dog, and you know, the classic living stereo shaded dogs that everybody wants to collect. This is a mono, obviously. That's an early Red Seal. Still really good quality. This one's in beautiful shape for its age. It came in the Still in the little, I guess there's probably original plastic inner sleeve here, which these things really do a nice job of protecting the records for 60 years here. Yeah, pretty good stuff. I guess Capel was kind of a hotshot piano player in his day. That's not him on the cover. Here's a photo of Capel. And unfortunately he died in 1953, I think. He died in a plane crash. So I think he's like 33 years old, something like that. This one's another early Red Seal. This one's on the shaded dog type label. Not stereo. This is before stereo recording. And then another one, the early 12-inch LP, RCA LP format. I think it probably came out in a 10-inch originally, and they just used the same art and kind of redesigned it to fit on a 12-inch package. That's why you see this wide border around here. Kind of weird. And then a couple more. On the Vox label, just wanted to pick up a Vox, an old Vox pressing, to kind of check out the quality. Nothing stood out to me about Klemperer or doing Bruckner, but yeah, just wanted to check it out and compare the Vox label to some of these other ones. And then finally, Lorendo Almeida. He was a jazz guitarist, played kind of the classical style guitar with nylon strings and all that, but also played a lot of, I guess, classical type Spanish music, things like that. And so this is his first concerto for guitar and orchestra with the LA Orchestra de Camara on the Concord Concerto. Concord record label from, I think, the late 70s and 80s. Put out a lot of jazz, but this is obviously classical. So yeah, that's it. It's kind of an interesting haul of stuff. Probably the best thing was the Tina Louise and some of those jazz pieces. Yeah, just that's my weird haul from the day before the record show. Luckily it was cheap. I think I spent $8 total. Bought a couple of CDs as well. Bought the Rosemary Clooney and Perez Prado. This is a reissue of an old RCA Victor release. I think it's an Argentinian version here. Although it lists Sony Japan on the back. And then some heavy kind of death metal out of, I don't want to say like Finland, somewhere in Scandinavia. These guys are from Amon Amarth. Heard the name before, not really familiar with the music, but it's some really heavy stuff. Double CD thing. Got a bonus CD inside the slipcase there. So yeah, that's it. Just a big haul of Goodwill stuff for cheap. So I'll see y'all next time. Next video is going to be finds from the record show here in town. Stay tuned. Bye.